Hi there, welcome to the podcast with me, Mike Laverick, your genial host, and welcome to the first series in podcasts that are really focused on the SMB and its use of virtualization. With me today, I've got a friend from across the pond, Raymond Overman. I first met this guy 2 or 3 years ago when he cornered me at the Charlotte regional VMUG and said to me, "What's VMware vSphere 4 doing for the SMB?" So when called upon, I thought of Raymond straight away because we had some good little chats when he was last over the UK about all things virtualization. So hello and thank you for joining me on the call today, Raymond.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
You're welcome. So I guess the first question I really want to ask you is the title question about your virtualization journey. Everybody's been on a journey. But I want to know, how did your journey with virtualization begin, and how did you get started with using VMware technologies?
Well, I guess my journey began with my previous life at another company. I'm currently with Microman Products Company in Huntersville, North Carolina. And my previous company that I worked with had some old NT4O servers and some 2000 servers, and they were on aging equipment, and we were having some problems with size and everything. And so we built a ESX 2.0 DAS, direct attached storage, with some servers, and migrated these legacy servers into that environment, and started there. And then, of course, whenever I moved here, I had some ideas about VMware. I'd just taken a 3.5 class, and so I felt like, wow, I'm ready to go now. And pretty shortly after I started in February of 2009 here, and shortly after I started, I was given this project that they were going to move Exchange 2003 to 2007. And being that it was the first of the year, I was handed the project with the budget already approved, and here's what we're going to do. And I really didn't have a lot of leeway in the money side of it. But I asked about, I was like, are we married to this idea of having physical servers and using that? And they said, no, you're the man, you're the guy who is going to be implementing it and supporting it, and so you can kind of make a decision on that. And so I started looking at how could I do this in a virtualized environment instead. And after some creative research on iSCSI SANs and how can I utilize some of the equipment that I already have and still fit within this budget, I actually did a project where I updated our Active Directory from 2003 to 2008, built a couple of servers, 3.5 ESX at the time, and had a small iSCSI SAN that I used for shared storage, and we moved from Exchange 2003 to Exchange 2007 with a edge server and a mailbox server in that 2008 Active Directory environment for the same budget that we were going to just do the Exchange conversion with.
Wow.
So it was kind of one of those solutions that if you look at my hardware at the time, it was kind of at the bottom of the list as far as the VMware was concerned, but it was hanging off the bottom. And so, but we've grown that, and we went from having 4 servers to shortly thereafter having 6 servers in the environment. By the end of that year, we had 12. We purchased a little bit more storage space. By the end of the second year, I had 16 servers, including SQL. And then by the end of last year, I had 100% of my environment, and we have right at 22 virtual machines now.
So you've kept on adding more and more virtual machines to that existing environment.
And of course, over the last 3 years, we've gone from 3.5 to 4.1, and we're at 5 now. We've also gone from basically a foundation SKU to a advanced SKU with this last update to vSphere 5. Of course, they discontinued they discontinued the advanced SKU. We're now on an enterprise SKU.
Wow.
So, it's given us a little bit more features with vMotion, and it just keeps adding to it. It's been a nice transition, fairly easy.
Sure, and it sounds like you've been growing very rapidly. So what I wanted to ask you is, when you turn up to work each day, what is it like, the life of a virtual administrator? I mean, I know you're real. I can see you in front of you, but what's your average day like if you're, as a virtual admin?
I mean, I'm not just a virtual admin. I'm everything. I am the IT department for the whole company. And so, as far as the virtualization side of things are concerned, I come in and I bring up the vSphere client, and I make sure that everything's green, and then we use a third-party backup utility and that's associated with that. And so I check to make sure that everything's working there, that I got my backups, and I do kind of the operations side of my job. And then by the time I'm finished with that, I've got some help desk something to do. Somebody calling me about a password change, or a hardware problem, or a VPN login problem from last night, or whatever other things that they come up with as far as the end user problems. And it's a general. I'm very generalized because I have so many hats to wear. There's the network equipment, there's everything else behind it that helps VMware work, and those servers talk to everybody. So I'm looking at those things on a daily basis.
Sure. I used to always joke with the people when I was an instructor who worked at an S&B. I used to say, they got you doing all that, and if they could get you to sweep up afterwards, they'd have you doing that as well.
Well, I do sweep the server.
So, I mean, here's a question. Rather than asking you what your favorite feature is in vSphere, I thought of a different way of kind of putting it, which was, what is it that you can't live without? If I was this big evil person who was about to come into your environment and take away something that you use within vSphere and run away with it, and you wouldn't have access to it, what kind of things, or what kind of features do you think I couldn't live with that particular feature? It would be so important to me that I couldn't live without that particular aspect of the technology.
Right. Well, up until about a year ago, I didn't have vMotion, and I thought, well, oh man, that's going to be so great, and that's going to be nice. And to be honest, I use it occasionally, but it's not something that I'm just married to. We're a small enough environment that I can actually walk around and tell everybody, okay, everybody get out of this server or that application and take something down for a few minutes, move it over, and then bring it back up. And it's not going to really affect business. It does, but it's not going to be a money losing proposition, I guess. But the one thing that I've kind of hung the moon on as far as VMware is concerned is HA. To be able to say, well, I've got 3 hosts. I've sized them so that if I lose one host, I'm able to fail over to the other 2 and maintain that. It kind of gives me some wiggle room to say, well, if I have a hardware problem, I'm still covered. I'm still able to get the job done. I'm able to solve my hardware problem, and I've got that 4-hour window on with a vendor that they can bring in a part and it's under warranty, and I can get them to manage that, and I've still got my systems up and running, and people are working. It's nice to be able to move things around, but the HA part of where that's kind of like, if you took that away, it would really make it a lot less desirable.
Sure. I mean, what I've sometimes found in some environments where a certain feature isn't there because the customer's decided it's not for them is that it often feels like I've got one arm behind my back. And oddly enough, actually not having access to the feature reminds me of how, dependent and how reliant on it, because once you've got it, you start to take it for granted for a little bit. And then once you have something taken away, it's like, I guess it's like, if you lose your mobile phone or whatever, it gets stolen, you suddenly be going, oh, like how dependent you are on these things. Although when they're around, you just sort of take them for granted a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was really neat whenever I first set up everything, and I was testing things out, and we had just we put all the equipment in, and I brought our controllers he likes technology, and so I brought him into the data center. I said, "Watch this." I literally pulled the plug on one of the hosts, and of course HA moved it over, and I plugged it back in, and was able to move things back, and he was like, "Oh man, that's wild." But since then, I can't say that we've needed it. But knock on wood, if I do, it's there.
It's a reassurance factor at the end of the day. I mean, as you know, I've got my equipment in a co-location facility, which is it's about 20 miles away from here, so it's a bit of a journey to get there. And everything I do is virtual, and so if something goes wrong with one of my hosts, which has actually happened, it's stopped me from having to schedule and go immediately, drop everything and go and to the co-location facility. HA's brought things up enough that I could decide when I wanted to go and do that site visit, not being dictated by got to drop everything and go there.
Well, and in my case, it has prevented me from having to go down that path of having a co-location facility. Our data center is here. Yes, it would be nice if I had a colo site and everything, but our business at this point doesn't require it, and the money outweighs the risk in that particular case. And so I've done those assessments, and everybody's satisfied with it. That I don't necessarily have to have that off-site to be able to say yes. If something goes down, we're going to be able to continue business.
Sure. And that test you do is nothing like being able to pull a plug on something and show to whoever it is, look, it works. And the confidence you have in doing that gives you confidence, and you come across well as well.
I'm not going to do it with my SQL servers. My host that has my SQL, but if it's an IS server or something like that, I've got to then I'll get everybody out of the pool and I'll show somebody.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all great stuff, but I guess, there's always a kind of pent up, desire for more, better. So what is it that you think VMware could be doing for the SMB or for your business directly that could make your life or make what you have already that much more better? Is there something that you hanker after or would like?
Yeah, they're with our business, and then also some other businesses that I've worked with. I've got a consultant that I work with sometimes outside of our business, and kind of give him some ideas as far as VMware is concerned. And in our business, we have a remote location that we're utilizing VMware on a single direct attached storage device with ESXi5. And one of the things that I've been struggling with is how do I back that up? You don't have VCB available necessarily because of our licensing. We have a vCenter server here, but we don't have one there. So how do I do disaster recovery type backups where I'm backing up all of the nice things? VCB works great here if we need it. There's third-party tools that work fairly well, but none of them quite mesh with that freebie version of ESXi. And I think with with our consulting, with the consulting that I've been doing, it's an entry level point to say, okay, I can put all your servers on this one piece of hardware, or this hardware with direct attached storage. I can give you some extra space. You don't necessarily have to upgrade your legacy applications right now. If you're on a 2003 server, a specific example, I had a 2003 server that was running some software, accounting software, and it was tied in with this dispatch service. And they didn't have the time or the money to upgrade right now, but they were running into hard drive space problems and memory contention. And so we ended up moving that server to a VMware server, migrating it and increasing the space, increasing the memory usage. And literally one day they were on a physical server, one day they're on a virtual server, and all the problems that they were having with the old server were solved. Now I've got to figure out, they were backing up the data, and that's okay, but I still want to have that VCB style backup. And yes, one of the things that we've been talking about is the script, that VCB, that get a VCB script, and that works, but we can't attach a USB device. We have to have some kind of NAS or NFS or iSCSI device sitting out there to back up to. So I'd like to see something from VMware that made that a little bit easier.
And I guess a bit like your journey, where you grew and you've become more virtual. If VMware could offer something to almost like a micro business, never mind a small business, right. As they grow, then VMware has helped that business on even in its very early stages with a particular acute problem with backup.
Sure, and it also alleviates my problem with my remote site, where I don't need all the hardware and infrastructure, but it does give me that peace of mind to know, well, not only do I have the data backed up and I'm doing that on a nightly basis from within the VM, but I'm also able to back up and from a disaster recovery standpoint. If something happened to the hard drive on that DAS server, then I'm able to recover it pretty quickly.
So we began with me asking you about the journey so far. So what's next? Have you got new projects coming up in the next 3 or 6 months or 12 months that are kind of virtualization oriented or will be delivered via virtualization?
Yeah, we, as I say, we've gotten to a point where we're 100% virtualized, and I do have some other projects that are going to be new servers, and so of course I'm going to be adding those into the virtual environment. As far as I'm starting to look at some cloud stuff, and I'm trying to possibility of trying to get that co-location site, maybe. And if so, I'm definitely going to probably try to leverage some cloud environment with that. We've got a vendor here that I recently went to a lunch and learn with, and it was they were setting up VMware cloud environments, and so it looked like it was going to be a fairly easy transition to be able to get at least some of my servers into that. And then of some software as a service type things too that I'm looking at. So that's kind of where the next step, I think.
Sure. Well, before we sign off, I've got one last unscheduled question, which is, I can see in the background what looks to be a Superman lunchbox. Is this because you see yourself as the Superman of the SMB?
No. It's my kids that gave
Okay.
Xbox. I think it was for Father's Day a couple of years ago, and I guess they see me as the Superman. So I brought it in. I thought it was kind of fun.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Raymond. It's been great listening into your ideas and thoughts.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.